So it is Sunday, July 30th, and I would have started my seeds in the last 2 weeks, but we've been coming and going so much, and last week's temperatures were really close to 100 degrees, so I didn't want to start seedlings then. And instead of starting them in my greenhouse this year, where it gets super hot during the day, obviously, I'm going to start my fall seeds in the ground this year. I have snagged some wood from my husband's wood shop. We'll see how long it takes him to notice to help me with getting those started. I've got broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, carrots, lettuce, cauliflower. There's a couple I'm going to wait until later August to start, like spinach and bok choy. But let's get started and see how much I can get done this morning. I'm using the board for a guide for my length, and I plan on doing 2 rows underneath each board, and I'll probably do a row or 2 in the middle between the boards that won't be covered, so we can kind of compare and contrast how well the seedlings germinate with that little bit of extra shade while they're waiting to germinate. All right, I have finished planting all the seeds in this packet into this bed right here, just the beginning half of the bed. The later half of the bed is going to be cauliflower, I believe, but the soil is compost many inches down. It's really easy to put a shovel into it. So Danvers half-longs should grow pretty well here as long as I can get them to germinate. And we will check back in a few weeks. Carrots, either way, would have been planted in the ground. You don't start carrots in trays and then transplant them. It disturbs the roots too much. So carrots are always planted directly in the ground. And somewhere else I will find in one of the wall beds probably, but not today, to plant some longer carrots, because those beds are even deeper fluff and the carrots grow even better there. All right, carrots are done. On to the next one. So this is ground bed 11. Currently has zinnias and some extra tomato plants and some dahlias at the end, but this whole bed is going to be all cauliflower by the fall. This is just the current variety of cauliflower I picked for my seed collection. I've grown several, they've all done pretty well. But instead of growing seeds in seed cells this year, I'm going to plant them in a thick bed directly in here, and then I will transplant them from here in 2 or 3 weeks. As late as the first week of September, I will transplant them and spread them out around the whole bed and probably another bed in addition to this one when they are a good size. This whole bed was full of garlic all last year. We pulled it in June. And now it's going to be cauliflowers. Now I am going to cover that left side with a board to help the soil maintain moisture, because August is still very hot here in Virginia, zone 7A. But I'm also going to do a bed of seeds next to it that won't be covered. And for comparison's sake, we can see how one germinates, how well one germinates compared to the other, especially if I forget to keep them watered, which is always a possibility. Now these won't take as long as the carrot seeds will to germinate. Carrot seeds can take up to 2 weeks, and this spring I think mine actually took 3 weeks. They took so long that I thought they weren't going to germinate. So I'll have to check these a little sooner to see what's turning green and when. There we go. All right, cauliflower's done. What's next? While many of my tomato plants are still giving me lots of tomatoes, some of them, specifically the beefsteaks, have turned traitor on me and died after the first 4 or 5 tomatoes. So I've pulled 2 out just to use those areas for somewhere to start my broccoli seeds. I'll be pulling those out later. Now, did they die too early? Simply from disease from pruning, from sharing soil space with sunflowers? I don't know, but they died. And this is why I plant lots of tomato plants, because I'm good at killing stuff. But I'm going to scrape those wood chips out of the way, because you never want to plant seeds near wood chips. They are nitrogen robbers. And then we'll plant our broccoli seeds. Okay, we'll give that front bed a little bit of shade for those seedlings, but we also have a bed without wood on it, or a seed bed, and we'll see how they do. And these don't take as long to germinate as carrots either. So the cauliflower and broccoli I will be keeping a close eye on this week, but I'll be keeping everything plenty wet all this week for sure. Here is the corn that I have growing in wall bed 1. So it's at a nice height where if I plant the lettuce in, I can pick it easily, but the corn is there and that will provide a good bit of shade for the lettuce during the summer. I will just have to stay on top of watering it to make sure it stays moist. And I'm doing butter crunch. They really like this lettuce a lot and it does well in the heat. Well, those 4 seeds are all I'm going to start right now. Right now I'm going to collect all the ripe tomatoes from the last 2 days and jump in the pool. Whew, it's so hot. The pool makes it worth it though. See you next time. Nasty baby squash bugs everywhere. But the zucchini plant is still alive. And I am going to get at least 2 more zucchini off of it. So I'm excited. Just leaving it alone, not touching it. Squash bugs can do their things. Maybe we can cohabitate. I'm here to offer an official apology to the month of August for all the ugly things I have ever said about the weather in August. This so far has been my favorite August ever. The first 4 days have been so nice and cool. I suppose the only defect to the weather is it's not necessarily swimming weather, but that's okay. How about if we do 1 week of cool temperatures in August and then 1 week of hot for swimming, and it can just alternate for the month. I'll accept that. Not sure if you can see that, but it's Friday morning and the cauliflower is already sprouting. See those little green guys? And this is the section that was underneath the plywood. And I don't see any sprouting yet on the side that wasn't covered. But I'm sure they will in the next couple days. Let's see if anything else is sprouting. Oh yes, there's the broccoli coming up where the wood had been covering, and there's also broccoli coming up where the wood had not been covering. Get that parsley out of the way. So we're gonna have good broccoli seedlings to transplant in a few weeks. And the lettuce is loving life. Friday morning, I got lettuce here, right here, and a bunch over here. So as these get bigger, I'll be transplanting them to spread them out a little bit. But this worked great, planting the lettuce underneath the corn for shade. I believe this is wall bed 18 by my front main gate to the garden. And I've gone ahead and filled that with some kale for this winter. And if the weather is nice all winter, or keep it covered if I need to, it'll still be harvesting into spring as well. I think this is wall bed 14. It's on the eastern side of the garden. Went ahead and filled that with some longer styled carrots since the compost here is a lot deeper and fluffier. And I will just keep that watered. I'm not going to cover that. I promise I will focus and keep it watered until they germinate. It's going to be hot next week. I am at least 1 month, maybe even 2 months late on starting my Brussels sprout seedlings. So these may not produce at all before a hard freeze comes, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. I've put the seeds at the end of this bed just as a temporary bed to sprout them because I have not really decided on where I would grow them yet, even though I had those wonderfully laid plans at the beginning of this year. But we'll see if they sprout and what they produce before the middle of winter gets here. Good morning, sleepy bumblebee. How are you? Good morning. You've got a lot of pollen on your legs. Look how much he's collected. Good job. And last but not least, these carrots that were just started 5 days ago obviously are not going to show their little sprouting heads for another while. But we'll keep an eye on them. I hope wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever's happening around you, that you can find the peace and pleasure that there is in Christ, and you can choose to live joyfully.